never said I oppose fracking. Show the tape. Put it on your website. Put it on the website.
Live from Clark Studios in Rochester, New York. Broadcasting around the world. You're listening to You Made It Political, where the voice of the keyboard warrior is finally heard and the arguments presented are put to the political test. And now, here's your host, Matt Clark.
Donald Trump delivers a vaccine to America in record-breaking time. Operation Warp Speed is what they've called it, and they nailed it flawlessly. But for some reason, New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo decides to swoop in and take all the credit for it today in his Monday morning briefing. Fox News reported with Andrew Cuomo and our very first nurse to take the vaccine. Where does Andrew Cuomo get off thinking that he had much to do to the delivery of the vaccine? If we all remember, he's the one who denied New Yorkers the vaccine until his team reviewed it. Let's head over to Fox News now and see a video of Andrew Cuomo sitting there very smugly for something that he doesn't really deserve to be proud of. Well, our first nurse in America gets the vaccine. Let's head over to the keyboard warrior cam. During a Governor Andrew Cuomo press conference on Monday, the first doses of New York's coronavirus vaccine supply went to a healthcare worker who spent the last 10 months working the front lines. First of all, listen, I think it's phenomenal that our healthcare workers are getting the vaccine. I think it's great. I think nobody deserves this more than our frontline workers, the nurses, the doctors who have so tirelessly worked throughout this pandemic. So I think it's great to see that a nurse is going to be the first one to get the vaccine. However, what I don't agree with is the fact that Andrew Cuomo is sitting here giving a press conference while taking all the credit for the vaccine. He's probably the most hated politician in New York right now. And if we think about what he's done leading up to the delivery of the vaccine, Andrew Cuomo's done nothing but really bankrupt businesses, kill elderly people, and destroy New York State right in front of our eyes over the last 8 months, yet he's here taking all the credit. The other issue I have with this entire circus show of a situation is that America is publicizing and politicizing this entire circus show. Why do we even need to make a big thing out of the delivery of the vaccine? Why do we even have to go down this road? Why can't we just give the vaccine and get on with it? Nope. America is addicted and hooked on fame and fortune, which is why the American people have been so skeptical throughout this entire pandemic. Money talks in America, and we, the American people, have been lied to and misled and misguided time and time again for the purpose of one thing, so that politicians can gain political and financial momentum over this entire show. It has been nothing but a show. But let's take a look at what Fox News and Andrew Cuomo report today while we take a look at the first nurse to get the vaccine.
How are you feeling today? I'm feeling great. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to the left deltoid.
there she is. She got her jab in the arm. It's a vaccine. I mean, I'm not sure why we're all sitting here staring in awe as if we just solved the bubonic plague for the first time again. The vaccine had the coronavirus, as we all know, has a survival rate of 99.8%. Okay? This whole show here is for one reason and one reason only. It's for political and financial gain. Our politicians throughout this entire pandemic have used the American people as pawns to advance in their careers or to monetize or to make some sort of money out of the pandemic, because that's what we do in America. We are addicted to fame and fortune. So why wouldn't we put Andrew Cuomo on the cover of this story, who, again, has done nothing more than destroy New York, destroy businesses, and kill our elderly? So I'm not sure why he's here in this story. I don't know what he has anything to do with it. And again, if you remember, Cuomo, do you guys remember when Trump announced that the vaccine was coming about a month ago? He announced, or about 2 weeks before the election, he announced that the vaccine was coming, but it wouldn't be delivered to New York because Andrew Cuomo wanted his team to review it. Have you heard anything in the news of his team reviewing the vaccine? Because as far as I'm concerned, I've heard nothing. So again, all lies. Trump punked Cuomo so badly that he had no choice but to go back on his word. He didn't get a team to review it. He didn't get his own medical experts to review it. Not to mention, why would anybody believe Andrew Cuomo's medical experts over Pfizer's team? I'd like to think that Pfizer has a lot more experience than anybody Andrew Cuomo could possibly pick to be on his COVID task force. So here we are in Long Island, in the state of New York, the very state that said we're not going to take it until we approve the vaccine. But here we are, Andrew Cuomo taking all the glory. So let's just point out the fact for a second that Andrew Cuomo did not deliver a vaccine to the American people. Donald Trump did. He was the president at the time. And you can argue, well, Donald Trump didn't either. Pfizer didn't take money. No, but Trump did organize and collaborate with the hundreds of organizations that were necessary to make this come together in such record-breaking time. Somebody had to lead the charge, and that man is sitting as the president of the United States right now, Donald Trump. So love him or hate him, he is going to go down as America's president who delivered the vaccine for the deadliest virus ever known to mankind in record-breaking speed. So, all you Trump haters out there, you're going to come and go. No one's going to remember who you are, but they're going to remember your boy as the man who saved the world and delivered the vaccine in record-breaking time. So, let's go to the keyboard warrior cam and take a look at what Americans have to say about the absolute charade and circus act that we all just witnessed here today. Mary says, photo op, that is all he wants. What a creep. And that's all he wanted, a Photoshop. It was nothing more than a photo op for Governor Cuomo. Chuck says, I thought he wasn't going to accept the virus in New York. Exactly. What happened, Cuomo? You said that we weren't going to get the virus because you wanted your team to look at it. So it's more hypocrisy on the left. It's more hypocrisy from the Democratic governors. Remember, he said his team needed to review this. He needed to make sure that it was okay. So let's take a look and think about this for a minute. Why has Governor Cuomo done this to New York State? Why has he killed our state? Why has he bankrupted our businesses? Why has he thrown so many elderly who didn't have the virus into a nursing home, into a COVID cesspool for thousands to die? Why did he do all this? Why did he fight so hard to go out of his way to ruin this state? Well, it all became clear when he was considered as Attorney General pick for the Biden administration. It all makes sense now. It all makes sense why Cuomo used New Yorkers as his pawns, because he knew come 2022, he wasn't going to be around for re-election if he got moved up to the Attorney General post. It all starts to make sense now. He bankrupted businesses. He knew that if he destroyed New York, that there's no way we would re-elect him. And for all of you who think, well, he's got New York City, I won't be so sure about that anymore. I don't think he has New York City anymore, because New Yorkers are more so furious with this dictator than most of the rural red counties in New York State. So I wouldn't be so sure that even if Cuomo didn't get pulled up as Attorney General, I wouldn't be so sure that he would get reelected in 2022 after everything he's done. Hence the reason he needed to put himself on the national stage, that he needed to conduct these press releases or press briefings every single morning. I mean, who even wants to listen to this guy anymore? It's like every single day, yada, 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 follow the science, look at the data. Well, Cuomo, we have been looking at the data. We have been following the science. And the data and the science has said that your state has had the worst death rate in all states in the country. 0.17% death rate to population and the strictest lockdown. So here we are. Look at the science, look at the data. You have done nothing but completely devastate New York State, but you didn't care because all you wanted was to be moved up to the Attorney General position. It all makes sense now. Let's go back to the keyboard warrior cam and see what more people have to say about the circus show that we just watched. Remember, half of Americans don't even want the vaccine. They have said, I do not want this vaccine. I don't trust it. It came out too fast. So here we are. We have a vaccine. Healthcare workers are probably the only ones who are going to end up taking it for now, and that's because they have to take it, which again is so unfair and inhumane that anybody should have to take this vaccine. Regardless of what you think about COVID, you should have a choice. It's a total violation of our rights in a free country. Ron says America should have been the #1 country in the world and having the least number of COVID infections. Instead, we are the last. Any president would have fast-tracked the production of a vaccine, but only Trump would lie and withhold life-saving information about COVID while making fun of recommended life-saving behavior. Ron, I'm not sure what you're smoking, but have we not just confirmed that the vaccine was delivered in record-breaking time? Operation Warp Speed was executed within 8 months. The Democrats, if we remember, have very clearly stated there's no way we'll get something out within the next 2 years. It's impossible. The medical expert said it's impossible. Against all odds, Trump pushed this thing through in 8 to 9 months. He pushed everybody. So even though Pfizer, for those of you who are just joining us, even though Pfizer didn't take any federal money, and you might say, well, Trump had nothing to do with it because Pfizer came out with it anyway, Pfizer admitted, and most pharmaceutical companies and vaccine manufacturers admitted that it would be a miracle if we got this thing out within even 5 years. Other parties, the Democratic Party, said, come on, let's shoot for 2. Trump did it in 9. So, Ron, I don't agree with your statement here. I don't know where you've been throughout the entire process, but you're blaming Trump for not coming out with a vaccine quick enough that actually came out in record-breaking time in history. So I think it's a very unfair argument. We'll scroll down. We'll take a look at some more comments by the keyboard warrior Cam. After all, this show is about you guys. It's about what you, the American people, have to say, your debates, your conversations. Mark says, I no longer trust anything from the government and will not take a vaccine of any kind of shot from a government entity. Mark has a very, very good reason not to trust any of this. Not to trust any of this. The CDC has flip-flopped a million times. Wear masks, don't wear masks. The vaccine's going to save the world. Now we don't know if the vaccine's going to do much. 50% might respond to it. 50% might not respond to it. All we have heard is lies. Lies and more lies. Hospitals throwing COVID death tallies on patients that died from something completely irrelevant to COVID, but because they had COVID at the time, they were given a COVID death certificate. The numbers have been skewed. We've been misled. We've been misguided. We were told lockdowns were going to work. They didn't work. We look at states who don't do lockdowns like Florida. They have half the death rate toll than New York. So it's no wonder that the American people are confused. They feel cheated. They feel lied to. They feel like they've been used as pawns. And it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or if you're a Republican. This vaccine has come out and nobody wants anything to do with it. I stand corrected. Some healthcare workers want something to do with it. My nurse is my sister is a nurse in the emergency room at a hospital here in upstate New York. She wants nothing to do with it. There's a lot of healthcare workers who think the whole thing was blown way out of proportion because they have personally witnessed, and I have spoken to these nurses, they have witnessed a ghost town amongst their hospitals. And we'll get to the fraud and the negligence of all of these politicians and organizations in just a minute. But first, we'll take a look at a couple more comments over at the Keyboard Warrior Cam and see what the American people have to say about the circus show of putting this COVID vaccine injection today on the national stage, with Governor Cuomo sitting right there with his smug little grin as if he had anything to do with the delivery of this vaccine, which, by the way, he had zero to do with it. But I don't think I need to convince you guys. He's probably one of the most disliked politicians in New York State. Ralph says Cuomo is a mass murderer and a lying con. Screw him and him trying to get in light of the Trump administration breakthrough that just recently condemned. The hell with Cuomo, the communist. And that's exactly what happened. He just took center stage. He just steamrolled his way right in there and upstaged the real heroes of this story, which is the Trump administration. Cuomo has made very bad decisions. He's made awful decisions here in New York. He's made decisions that have killed many people, many elderly. He's made decisions that have bankrupted many businesses whose lives have been destroyed. And he constantly continues to make these horrible decisions. So why he's felt the need to write a book, why he's felt the need to accept an Emmy Award is beyond me. I don't think anybody with the ethics that a real, genuine American who cares about these lives, who cares about these people, would have ever written a book in the middle of this pandemic, would never have tried to monetize or advance his political career at the sacrifice of the New Yorkers, which is exactly what just happened here. We'll take a look at one more comment here in the Keyboard Warrior Cam, and then we'll head over to my other post about the negligence and the fraud that has been committed on so many organizations leading up to the launch of the vaccine. We'll take a look at what Ricky has to say here, our very last comment. So let's make everyone wait even longer just to get it on camera, which is exactly what we just saw. As much as they want to hurry and give people the vaccine, you would think that they would give them the shot and on to the next ASAP. Not stand there and wait for the live red light to come on the camera. Thank you, Trump, for making a vaccine for the people that are willing to take it. As much as I'm against vaccines, you would think they would be worried about them getting the vaccine ASAP instead of videotaping them giving it to someone. It's a very great comment. For those of you who are just joining us, let's take a look. We just watched a video. Here we have Andrew Cuomo, Governor of New York State, Andrew Cuomo, and a photo opportunity. On stage, we have a healthcare worker receiving the vaccine for the first time. Like we don't know what an injection looks like. What's with the hundreds of cameras? What's with the media? When I saw this, I thought, why does anybody care to make a field day out of this? And this is why I call it the COVID circus show. Because America is more interested in fame and fortune than genuinely helping the American people. And our politicians and our healthcare organizations have proven that time and time again. So we'll head over to the post I posted yesterday, because I do feel that a great amount of negligence and fraud has been contributed to the lead up to the vaccine. I think that politicians need to be held at some point liable. I think that health organizations have to be held liable. And I do believe that a class action lawsuit should be had here against a lot of these organizations and politicians who have destroyed and killed Americans for their own political and financial gain. That's exactly what happened. So I posted last night a post on Facebook, which I believed was received quite well. When this is what I said. When this whole COVID nonsense is over, How does one go about filing a class action lawsuit against Governor Cuomo, Governor Newsom, CDC, the Teachers Union, Bill Gates, Pfizer, every single hospital in America, CNN, BLM, China, and the entire Democratic National Committee? P.S. I asked people to feel free to add any other organization to the list that they felt has completely misled the American people and should be held both liable for both negligence and fraud. So I had a lot of response. Now let's break this list down for a minute. Let's break the list down. I name a lot of people here that I feel should be held liable. Okay, a lot of people here I think should be held liable. I don't think we really need to go into Governor Cuomo and why I feel that he needs to be held liable. But let's just break it down anyway. Governor Cuomo has sent thousands of elderly to nursing homes where they died. They died. Who's going to be held accountable for these deaths? Who's going to be held accountable? Somebody needs to be held accountable here. Is it going to be Governor Cuomo? Is it going to be New York State? Is it going to be the health organizations? But somebody has to be held accountable. We're going to cut to a commercial break right now. We're having a little bit of a technical issue. We'll sort that out, and we'll be right back after this message. And we'll go through why I feel all of these names here have committed some sort of negligence, fraud on their end. Stay tuned. We will be right back.
Welcome back to You Made It Political, where the voice of the keyboard warrior is finally heard, and the arguments presented are put to the political test. And now, here's your host, Matt Clark.
Welcome back. We're having little bit of a technical difficulty here during the show, so bear with us, please. At least you can hear the audio okay. The video might freeze here and there. But as long as you can hear me, that's all that matters here. We were talking earlier before we took a commercial break. All of the politicians and the health organizations that I feel have committed some sort of negligence and fraud, and they should be held accountable. Governor Newsom has locked the state down, has bankrupted businesses, have destroyed lives. The teachers' unions have done everything but fight for the kids. School and education is about the children. There is zero argument. There is zero reason for concern as to why we needed to shut schools down. And now that kids have literally committed suicide, now that they've become an emotional train wreck, who's liable for those deaths? Who's liable for all the trauma that's occurred? Who is going to be held responsible for the immense amount of pain that we've caused these children? Because out of 315 deaths in Monroe County, 0 have been under the age of 30. 0. And there have been no cases whatsoever where a child has transmitted the virus to a teacher and that teacher has died. 0. Yet schools remain shut or in some sort of hybrid situation. The teachers' unions have done nothing to fight for the actual children. They fought for their own financial gain. Teachers have put pressure on the union. We want to stay home. We don't feel safe. Why? Why don't you feel safe? Who is going to be held liable for the thousands of children across America who have suffered? For the children who have killed themselves because they couldn't take it anymore, because they don't deserve to be at home. They deserve to be out with their friends, learning, getting a real education. The teachers' unions are liable. Bill Gates is liable for pushing a vaccine, for only concerning himself for political gain, at the loss of so many businesses and lives. He has done nothing but push this. Pfizer, every hospital in America for throwing a COVID death on unrelated COVID cases just so they can get the COVID bonus pay. And the CDC for allowing those numbers to go up. These numbers are skewed. They aren't the real numbers. Again, we've been lied to. This is the biggest, greatest American lie in the history of the United States. And everybody was taken for a ride. All of these people had something or a big part to play in it. China, for hiding and holding back information that was so sensitive and imperative to the rest of the world to get a grip on this virus before it spun out of control. And now here we are, hundreds of thousands of people dead, millions across the world dead from a virus that China only told us about because they got busted in true, typical China fashion. And the entire Democratic Party and BLM were exploiting this virus and taking to the streets and burning down our cities and destroying our businesses and ruining historical priceless pieces of monuments in history. Who gets the bill for all this? Somebody needs to be held accountable. So when I call this episode The Great American Lie, it's because we have been lied to. Because politicians and health organizations wanted to gain financially. They wanted to gain politically. And they didn't care who was going to get steamrolled and buried along the way. And that's exactly what's happened. If you guys look up total deaths in the United States over the last 5 years, you will see that in 2020, we have had less deaths by thousands than previous years. Cases are spiking all of a sudden. Guess what? It's winter. That's what happens in the winter. Flu cases spike. But for some reason, we're calling it COVID. The whole thing has been very misleading. It's been very misguided. Where were we? Where was everybody? Where was the scare this summer? Where were the spiked cases this summer? Cases didn't spike this summer. We were all out freely. Now we're locked down. The winter season approaches. It's flu season. All of a sudden, COVID cases spike. So I can't help but to think and use my head and turn off CNN and think none of this is making sense. I am sick of the hypocrisy and I'm sick of the lies. And so should all of the American people, because we have been lied to and we've been used for the greater good of our political and health organizations for their financial and political gain. We have been used. It's a horrible feeling. So the vaccine's out. Half of America doesn't want to take it. Let's see what happens over the next few months when it doesn't work on half of us. It'll be very interesting to see how many more lies our government and our health organizations are going to try and get us to believe. Thank you guys so much for joining the show today. You've been watching You Made It Political with Matt Clark. If you want to be a guest on the show, comment below in this video or email guest@youmadeitpolitical.com. And I'd love to hear your feedback and your opinions, regardless of what side of the fence you sit on. You guys have a great and wonderful rest of your Monday. We'll see you here tomorrow at 3 p.m.
Thanks for listening to You Made It Political with Matt Clark.